John Grisham and his wife, Renee Grisham. Renee, by the way, is a Presidential Precinct board member. She's also a founding donor. And you know John Grisham, I certainly do. What an honor to actually have an opportunity to meet him. And, okay, not too many more anecdotes, but he's here at a great time. He's here exactly 1 week from the DC bar exam. All of you lawyers know what that means. And I know more than one person would love to hear some of his tales from the crypt. He's an attorney, politician, activist. His books have been translated into 42 languages, been made into 9 feature films, as well as a TV series. I hear he's got another one in the works. And Renee Grisham is a women's advocate, philanthropist, board member of the Presidential Precinct, who has been instrumental in guiding the organization. So thank you both so much. Come on up.
And who knew Theodore Boone would inspire someone to go to law school?
Who? Theodore Boone. Renee and I are honored to be here tonight to present this award to the Young Leader Award to Zikamai Betty, a young man that we met a couple of years ago at lunch in Charlottesville during a precinct event. We live in Charlottesville, and you guys have just been there and spent some time there, no doubt worshiping at the altar of Thomas Jefferson, where you have to if you live in Charlottesville. We all do that, do we? That's part of life there. The struggle for human rights touches all of mankind. No continent, no country is immune from violations of human and civil rights, not even here. We as Americans often rather smugly gaze at the rest of the world and pat ourselves on the backs for having such strong institutions, a constitution that is resilient, a political system that should work, a judicial system that is designed to protect the rights of all. However, if we spent more time inspecting ourselves, perhaps we would deal with our problems even better. Only 50% of Americans have access to civil justice. The other half cannot afford a lawyer and have no protection. With 2.5 million people behind bars, we have the highest rate of incarceration in the civilized world, or maybe uncivilized. Somewhere between 2 and 10% of these people are actually innocent, but there's no government program in place to rescue them. Until 6 years ago, we were the only Western nation that sentenced children to life without parole, effectively ensuring that a 15-year-old criminal defendant would die in prison. Today, there are still 2,000 of these serving their draconian sentences. Economically, the top 10% get richer, while those in the bottom 1/3 lose ground. Tonight, 12 million American children will go to bed in homes that are food insecure. 1 in 6 deals with hunger. I could go on, and I will, but not tonight. Maybe later, maybe in print. Our problems, though, are not as harsh and deep as in other countries. The real human rights heroes are those who work tirelessly for peace and independence against corrupt regimes and unstable governments, those whose lives are not always secure, those who often fear the knock on the door, those who work for justice and accountability. Our recipient tonight, Zikamai Betty, is one of those heroes. In Zimbabwe, he is a leading advocate for basic human rights, such as transitional justice, fundamental freedoms, the personal security of all, equality, non-discrimination, for the protection of the environment, for property rights, and for access to justice. Zikamai has spent his entire career on the front lines of human rights promotion and protection in Zimbabwe. Despite the recent change in government there, the leadership is still old and entrenched, dangerous and violent, and things are not better. Zikamai continues to be an inspiration to longtime activists and to many new and up-and-coming leaders. As the leader of the National Justice Working Group in Zimbabwe, and working with other Zimbabwean human rights legends, as he calls them, Zikamai Berry has and continues to lead the struggle for independence, justice, and equality. Through the Young Leader Award, the precinct honors its alumni who are promoting social, cultural, and political progress in the world's developing democracies. We cannot imagine a more deserving candidate than Zikamai Berry to receive this distinction. Zikamai.
Friends, it is a joy and a thrill for me to accept the Presidential Precinct's Young Leader Award. I am deeply humbled by this award tonight, by this occasion and this particular gathering. And I wish to thank the Presidential Precinct, the Board of Directors for the Presidential Precinct, the founders of the precinct, and in a special way to Renee and John Grisham for the wonderful introductions and for presenting the award. I wish to thank the Secretariat of the Presidential Precinct for the honor. I take great confidence and inspiration from the realization that the little steps that we take from lands far away from here, they attract your attention and your great recognition. And therefore, in turn, I also wish to thank those who lead and support me in these endeavors, beginning with girls who guide me in my life in the silence of our home, my wife, Rodo, and our two beautiful kids, Rufaro and Anesu. I am greatly indebted to the leadership of the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum, my director, Blessing Gorajena, who couldn't be here tonight, and the chairperson of the forum, Madam Justina Mukoko, a legendary survivor of torture in Zimbabwe. I also thank the leadership of the National Transitional Justice Working Group, who I serve in the work that we do, Zimbabwe's most celebrated human rights lawyer, Mr. Alec Nchadema, and his deputy, Mr. Paul Tembanyati, a great mentor and hero of our liberation struggle. The strides that we make every day are made possible because of their empowering leadership. Friends, when all is said and done, I think tonight's award is indeed not mine, but it is for all young leaders across the continent. And I dedicate it to them, all those who believe that the continent is due for peace in our lifetime. It is for the young women in Sudan, for the masses in Malawi, the human rights defenders in Zimbabwe, and all those who yearn for restoration of their fundamental freedoms. This award says to all of them, your struggles are not invisible. On behalf of myself and all those I work with in Zimbabwe and our regional and global partners here present, I say thank you to the precinct partners. Allow me, friends, to depart from the public square of anarchy and despair to a very personal reflection that I wish to share with the Mandela Washington Fellows here present, of the lessons that I have learned in this leadership journey and how the precinct has become part of it. For me, this award is a symbol of investment that the precinct has made in my leadership journey. I could ask John to teach me to write a book about it. But tonight, let me only share 3 critical leadership investments which the precinct has made in my leadership journey, in my career, and in my life. The precinct has taught me 3 things. One is that leadership is love, right? So the precinct has taught me that leadership is not merely offering technical solutions to the problems that our society faces. There are too many technocrats in this world, but our world suffers from a deficit of compassion. It is my testimony that the precinct has decided to go beyond providing technical expertise. They've offered themselves for accompaniment for the leaders whom they work with. In Nigeria, there is a saying by a Nigerian author, Chichi Azo, which says, you catch a hat with a hat, which is why we see Neil following the fellows down to South Africa to get his hands dirty, to see what they're doing there, which is why Drew spends a lot of time documenting and curating the stories of the fellows. I myself have spent hours and hours with Katie and Nancy deliberating about some of the concepts on how we can solve some of Africa's most wicked problems. And for me, this defines leadership, not just offering technical solutions and let the people go like robots and hope that these problems will be solved. And of course, I have learned a great lesson, which I also think that the fellows here had the privilege to learn from Dr. Stamp at the University of Virginia, that leadership is the art of getting things done. Leadership is the art of getting things done. I have taken this philosophy and I have made it very personal in my own leadership journey. It reflects in my work. I am crazy about results. I want to see things done. But at the same time, there is a pleasurable art in the process. My brothers and sisters from Zimbabwe, we have participated in our last 2018 Transitional Justice Symposium, know that we had a ruthless focus on results. And yet that did not replace our obsession with the perfection of the process. I learned that from the present. Perfection is not a weakness. And finally, the precinct has taught me leadership through inspiration. The fellows from the precinct can agree with me. Just take for a moment and root yourself in this particular moment and the feeling in the room. And for those who are at the Africa Business Forum, your experience. If there is a single biggest takeaway that I took from the precinct, which I have infused in my work, is that leadership is inspiration. And this particular program, the Mandela Fellowship, is rooted in the inspiration of Africa's greatest leader, Nelson Mandela. It matters who is in the room. Just look around the room and you will get the feeling of what I mean. Some people, by their mere presence, even before they open their mouths, they begin to set big changes into motion. This is a principle that has influenced our current transitional justice strategy, in which we have introduced what we are calling transformative advocacy. In transformative advocacy, we don't depart from those we condemn, but we get our hands dirty, we get into the process. And through the inspiration of great experts and people who know what they are doing, We catch a heart with a heart. We don't avoid, we get involved. And it's all part of the inspiration. But it is not enough to only focus in the spaces where we are going. In my career, I have actually learned to travel across continents, to search for those springs of inspiration and bring it into my work. Just last week, we held a Mandela Radio Dialogue, in which we had an international panel from the people in Colombia and in South Africa. What a mighty flow of inspiration that came into that room. And because of that skill that I learned from the precinct, I have started to transform my daily work into a spring of inspiration. I don't know who said these words, but for me, I think they summarize everything that I've learned from the precinct and what the precinct has done to my leadership journey. Where there is love, there is no labor. And if there is any labor, that labor is transformed into love. Friends from the precinct, you have abolished labor in my life and replaced it with love, which in leadership we call service. And when service is given in love, everything we do becomes a pleasure and an inspiration. And through this award, you have placed your inspiration in a physical space in my life. And I thank you, Tatenda Siyabonga.